What's going on, guys? Isaiah or Slashbuddy24 here, back bringing you another Valorant video. It's been quite some time since I've uploaded Valorant on my channel, but I've recently got back into the game, so I wanted to start making some Valorant content and mixing it in with my other videos. In this video, I'll be going over the most recent patch that just dropped yesterday, patch 2.03. This patch brings a bunch of very much welcomed balance changes for a couple weapons, then also some other agent and quality of life updates. We also have a brand new game mode for a limited time, which is Escalation, which is sort of a 5v5 gun game mode. More about that in a little bit. Then also some sort of initial changes to the ranking system or the MMR system in terms of leaving and AFKs. But we're going to get into all that in this video, and timestamps will be available down below along the video bar or in the video description. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So we're starting out here with our agent changes, and we have Reyna up first. She's received a pretty big nerf, I would say. Her Q and E, which is her main two abilities, the charges have been reduced from 4 to 2, and they also cost now an additional 100 credits. To sort of counterbalance that, you can now use the Q and E even if you have just damaged an enemy in the last 3 seconds before they died, so sort of if someone steals your kill. Overall, though, this is a pretty big nerf to Reyna. She can now only use her Q and E 2 times around instead of 4. This is going to significantly reduce Reyna's ability to hard carry a game in solo queue. And I think this change was more so aimed at the lower ranks, where Reyna can be a pretty big pub stomper. They sort of mention it in the notes. But if you have like a Reyna Smurf, they can basically just single-handedly take over the game. Healing to full 4 times, potentially in a round. Probably a bit too much. So this is going to allow people to sort of Reyna be more balanced around team play and have to be more selective with those soul orbs. Moving on now to Yoru. He's received some, I would say, pretty inconsequential and minor buffs for his teleport ability and his ultimate ability. His teleport ability just shows some additional info now on the minimap in terms of when enemies can see it and hear it. And then his ultimate ability has received some minor buffs as well. Now with the ultimate ability, when Yoru is running with his ultimate and can see other enemies, those enemies will be highlighted on your allies' minimap. So no real statistical number changes, just sort of some informational changes to sort of make Yoru not be so reliant on comms. Either way though, some pretty minor buffs for him. Moving on now, we have a very minor change for both Brimstone and Phoenix, where their Molotovs have received some audio quality of life improvements. Starting out here with Brimstone's Molotov. When you shoot it here, I'll let you listen. You can obviously sort of hear the flames there burning. And the same thing with Phoenix's Molotov. This is sort of a bug fix more so, because it says that sometimes you wouldn't be able to hear the Molotov still burning if other things were going on. They didn't really say what those other things were. I would assume like when other abilities were cast. Sometimes you wouldn't be able to hear the Molotov. Maybe if there's like a smoke diffuse going on, you wouldn't be able to know if the Molotov was burning or not. So either way, sort of a nice quality of life change for those two abilities. Jumping into now here, our gun changes, and this is what the community was waiting for. Our first gun is the Frenzy, which has had its price increased from 400 to 500 credits. As many of you know, a big meta shift in the pistol round meta as of late was the Frenzy, where the Frenzy and light armor was basically what everyone was buying, and it was extremely overpowered. So now with this new change, the Frenzy costs 500 instead of 400. So this is going to make sure that you can't buy Frenzy and light armor in the pistol round. I think overall this is a solid change. The Frenzy armor just proved to be a bit too strong in the pistol round with that running and gunning strategy. But still, as you can see here, no other statistical changes to the weapon. The Marshal, on the other hand, has had some actual statistical changes. It has had its price decreased from 1100 to 1000, but then also had its zoom magnification increased further to 3.5 times, and then also its movement speed while scoped moved up from 76% to 90% movement speed. So overall, they're just trying to make this weapon a little bit more viable. Before, the Marshal really was never bought. It might have been honestly one of the worst weapons in the game, just because you're so much better off buying something like a Stinger or a shotgun. But they want to make the Marshal a little bit more feasible on those low econ rounds. So now, as you can see, it zooms in a lot farther. You can hit some longer range kills on positions like long A or C on Haven. And in addition to that, you can now move more while scoped in. Brings it sort of similar in line to the Scout, the similar weapon from CSGO. That gun has pretty high movement speed, and it's sort of a hit and run weapon. So the same sort of thing kind of in mind here for the Marshal in Valorant, and Riot is hoping that this weapon will see some play in those econ or save rounds. Our last gun change here is to the Stinger. As many of you know, the Stinger is running rampant right now in competitive play, so the full auto and the burst fire have both been changed. The price has been increased by 100 credits, and also we have here, as you can see on your screen, some various recoil adjustments. The recoil has basically just been made worse, made there be more recoil for both modes of fire, the full auto fire and the burst fire. And as you're going to see here with the new burst and full auto fire, it does have some pretty noticeable recoil now. It's definitely a lot different, but I still think it's not that bad. They sort of have just changed the spray pattern. And as you can see here, when you just hold it down without correcting, it's going to really jump up extremely quickly. I think it starts to jump up now on bullet 4 instead of bullet 6. But in terms of the new spray pattern, it just kind of requires you to pull down a lot harder. The previous iteration of the Stinger really had no recoil. You basically just kept your crosshair on the guy with a slight pull down, and you could potentially spray enemies from a pretty far distance. But with these new changes to the full auto and the burst fire, this is going to sort of require you to really compensate a lot harder for that recoil. As you can see here with the new burst fire, this is with me like shooting slowly but not really correcting. But as long as you shoot and then pull down immediately, sort of reminds me a lot of the UMP spray pattern from CSGO. That's sort of the new version of the Stinger, and going to require a bit more skill and spray control to still be an effective weapon. But overall, I still think that it's definitely viable. Moving on now to some quality of life changes. We have the first initial wave of the competitive updates for AFKers and leavers and things like that. There's a full article on the Valorant blog detailing these changes. This is just the first initial change with the AFK penalties, but there's going to be a lot more significant changes coming with Episode 2, Act 2. More info about that on the Valorant website, which I will link down below. Moving on now to our last few updates. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, we have a brand new game mode, Escalation, which is sort of like a poor man's gun game or arms race mode. It's a 5v5 mode where you have to progress through 12 weapon levels as a team, and it involves using a variety of weapons in the game, not only the Phantom and Vandal, but other things here like the Sova Shock Dart or the Raise Grenade. I played a few games of it. Overall, not really that fun playing by yourself, but maybe you have a few friends and you want to just kind of fuck around in Escalation. It's around for a limited time, so definitely give it a try. And last and certainly not least, we have some, usual crop of quality of life and bug fixes. We have sort of a quality of life change for the death sequence to sort of help out those folks who have some internet issues. I guess there was some sort of bug with when you die, it would sort of just lag your whole game if you had like a high ping or something. And then aside from that, your usual lengthy list of bug fixes and changes. I will link the full patch notes down below in the description box, and you can check those out all for yourself, because I'm obviously not going to break down all of these one by one. But aside from that, guys, that's basically going to do it for this week's video for Valorant. I'm planning on definitely doing a lot more here in the very near future as we move into the new season with the new potential agent just on the horizon. Let me know what you guys think about this balance update in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you guys soon.